Today I thought I'd answer some of your questions. Though I always try to answer them individually, some of them come up often enough that I think it makes sense to address them in a video. The first couple have to do with our hoop house. Joshua asks, I've been thinking of building a hoop house lately. I noticed the condensation within yours. Have you had any issues with mold? You're absolutely right, Joshua. We do get a lot of condensation in the hoop house. But fortunately, we haven't had a problem with mold at all. Though it's quite warm in here at the moment, during the winter, temperatures get much too low in the hoop house for mold to thrive. For mold to become a real problem, it needs to have moisture, a food source, and optimal temperatures. And during the winter here, it's just too cold for mold. As the weather warms, however, mold is much more likely to be a problem. To prevent its spread and to keep crops from getting too hot, we'll vent the low tunnels, cold frames, and hoop house. Venting will reduce condensation and create a less hospitable environment for mold. The amount of venting we do will progressively increase as we get closer and closer to spring. Sometime in March or April, we'll remove all of the covers from the cold frames and low tunnels. We'll also progressively vent the hoop house itself. At the moment, the only venting option we have for the hoop house is this door. But in late winter or early spring, we'll also start venting the sidewalls. This should provide more than enough air circulation to keep condensation and mold in check. The topic of venting the sidewalls segues very nicely into the next question from Permaculture Prepper. I was wondering what you'll be doing with the large hoop house come April. Packing it in? We won't be packing it in, but we will remove this sheet of plastic, which covers the top of the hoop house and the sidewalls. However, the plastic on the end walls and all of the framing will remain intact. That way next fall, when we prepare for the cold, all we'll have to do is reapply this one piece of plastic that covers the top of the hoop house and the sidewalls. We'll remove this plastic not only for ventilation, but because I view this garden bed as a permaculture food forest of cold-hardy perennials and self-sowing annuals, and these crops would not do well if covered in spring and summer. By removing the cover, we allow these cold-hardy perennials and self-sowing annuals to continue to thrive into spring and summer, go to seed, and produce crops for next year's winter garden. I've been asked the next question so many times that I'll just summarize it here. Why don't you name the brand of rock dust you used in your rock dust field trial? The answer is really very simple. I don't want to be sued. I also don't want to be in the position where a company can say, take down your videos or we'll see you in court. My rule of thumb is to not mention the name of a product unless I'm saying something positive about it or I have the permission of the manufacturer. In the case of rock dust, at the beginning of the field trial, I had no idea how it would turn out. So without the permission of the company, I decided not to name the brand of rock dust. I will say, though, that it's widely recommended and well known. The next question has to do with making compost in a small garden. Vicky asks, I'm new to gardening, but I have an apartment with an herb and food garden. How do I make compost in a small space? Thanks, Vic. Well, Vicky, if I had a very small space, I'd want to use as much of that space as possible to grow food rather than make compost. So instead of building the soil with homemade compost, I'd use mulch. I'd mulch my garden with things like grass clippings, used coffee grounds, wood chips, autumn leaves, and ground eggshells. I wouldn't use anything that might attract pests. And to process food scraps, I'd set up a small worm bin and stock it with about 1,000 red wiggler composting worms. I've done a number of videos on worm composting, and there's a lot of great information online on how to get started. If you keep the worm bin inside your apartment, you'll definitely want to keep the worms inside the bin. And the best way to do this is to create a comfortable environment for them, where there's plenty of bedding, plenty of food, and the contents of the bin have the moisture of a wrung-out sponge. But the real secret to keeping them inside the bin is having a nightlight on whenever it's dark. Worms avoid light, and this will keep them inside the bin rather than slithering around your apartment. I'll wrap things up today by responding to a frequent expression of concern for my well-being and for the example I'm setting. Expressed most recently by the Bush Doctor 68. Great video, but please don't sit on that window. I sat on these glass tops so many times in so many videos that I really should have addressed the issue sooner. What you probably don't know is that this glass is very thick. I custom ordered it years ago for my control room in my recording studio and had it made very thick for soundproofing purposes. That thickness is now a big advantage in weatherproofing the cold frames. The glass is so thick that I probably could walk on these cold frame tops without breaking them, but I won't do that. Anytime I put weight on them, I make sure most of my weight is on the wood frame and there's absolutely no chance that the glass will break. Oscar is also perfectly safe. He can't break the glass no matter how hard he tries.
Good boy.
I hope this video answered some frequently asked questions. If you have questions you'd like me to address in a future video, please let me know in a comment below. Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, remember, you can change the world 1 yard at a time.